Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Michael Carbone. I'm a business and immigration attorney in Staten Island, New York. Today, I want to talk about the 5 most important components of the N400 Naturalization application. Now, before I dive into this topic, if you have any questions or you want to start a conversation, please drop a comment below. Otherwise, if you'd like to set up a formal legal consultation with me, please visit us at carboneattorneys.com. We have a button in the top right corner of our website. Click it, fill it out, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So the N400 application is the USCIS form that is used for legal permanent residents who are looking to apply for naturalization and become a US citizen. Now, for this video, we're going to go over the 5 major components of the N400 application. Now, there are a ton of questions on this form, but each question is mostly geared towards one of these 5 important components. I'm going to go through each one and sort of break down what the component is and why USCIS is targeting questions based on that component. So the first component is holding legal permanent resident status for at least 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a US citizen. So there are actually other ways to qualify for naturalization, but these are the 2 most common ones that a majority of applications are based on. And the 5-year and 3-year requirements are just a threshold requirement. In order to even be able to apply, you have to meet one of those time periods. Next is the physical presence requirement. So this really looks towards how much time you're spending in the United States. Once you become a legal permanent resident, USCIS, the US government, they want to make sure that you are spending time here, that you are building a life here. And so for the physical presence requirement, you have to show that you've been in the United States for at least half of the time that's required for your eligibility. So that's either 5 years or 3 years. And the actual number for the 5-year eligibility requirement, you have to show you've been here for at least 912.5 days. And for the 3-year requirement, you have to show that you've been here for at least 547.5 days. Now, any time spent in the United States, even if it's for part of a day, counts as a full day. So the way that we calculate physical presence is looking at your trips outside of the United States. So if you are leaving the US and you are traveling to any country outside of the US, this doesn't include territories, so Puerto Rico doesn't count, but if you are going to Canada, France, England, any country outside of the United States, you count those days that you are spending outside of the US. Now, when you add up all the days that you've been here and all the days that you've been outside of the US, as long as you meet that minimum time spent here in the United States, you will have met the physical presence requirement. The next component is maintaining continuous residence. Now, this can sound similar to physical presence, although there's a slight distinction. So the reason that this component exists is because you must maintain your status as a legal permanent resident, okay? So you cannot do anything to break that status if you intend on applying for naturalization and qualifying for naturalization. So how is continuous residence calculated? How does USCIS determine if you've met this requirement? So similar to physical presence, we're gonna look at your trips outside of the United States. However, there's one caveat that's a little bit different. For the purposes of continuous residence, they're looking to any single trip of 6 months or greater. Why is this important? So if you take a single trip of 6 months or greater, you are presumed to have broken your residency status. Now, it's not officially broken, but when you apply for naturalization, you will have to prove that you did not actually intend to break your status. And this can be proven by supplying, a copy of your lease agreement, a letter from your employer, affidavits from friends and family members showing that you did not intend to break your status, and for some other circumstance, you unfortunately spent too much time outside of the United States. Now, the flip side of this is if you have spent 1 year or more outside of the United States in one single trip, you have effectively broken your status. Now, not only does this disqualify you for naturalization purposes, but now you no longer have legal permanent resident status, and there are even further complications with that. The next component of the N400 naturalization application is good moral character. So there are a ton of questions on the N400 that are tied to good moral character, but for the most part, these are questions that are getting at your criminal convictions, your immigration violations, any behavior that the government has decided is behavior that lacks good moral character. Now, fortunately, the standard is not perfection, so you do not have to have a perfectly clean record. However, there are definitely some offenses, some conduct, and some incidences that will disqualify you from a good moral character perspective. Now, lastly, the final component is around the English and civics requirement. So there aren't too many questions related to this on the N400. It will ask you questions about whether or not you have a disability and are incapable of passing those exams. But for the purposes of naturalization, that final component is really the test, right? So when you go to the interview, they're going to test whether you can speak, read, and write in English, and whether you have a basic understanding of United States civics. Do you understand the different bodies of government? Do you understand how the federal government works? Federal holidays. I mean, the list goes on, but this is the last major component of any naturalization application. If you cannot pass the English or civics exam, you will not pass for naturalization purposes, and they will deny your application. So that's it. Those are the 5 major components of the N400 naturalization application. If you understand these and you can qualify under each of these components, you're that much closer to being able to become a US citizen. So that's it. That's the video. If you like this and you want to see more, please like, subscribe, and I'll keep making them.